Welcome to the Easy Bros Fantasy Football Podcast.
Coming at you from the Easy Bros studio in blistering hot Arizona.
Here are your hosts and football fanatics, Edward Green and Zach Rogers.
How goes it, Easy Bros? Welcome to the Easy Bros Fantasy Football Podcast, where we make fantasy football easy for you. I'm Zach.
And I'm Eddie, your fantasy football geologist, here to study all the stats for you, get down to the bones of business, and let you know about the red zone leaders of the NFL.
Before we get to that, we're going to go over a little bit of news for the day. We have a couple things that might shake up the fantasy world from the ground underneath, a little like that earthquake you were there talking about.
Are you talking about Von Miller losing his legs there?
Yeah.
Out for the possibly the season?
Possibly
that really
the
affects
whole season.
That affects the defense there in Denver. We're gonna see.
He's like He's the captain.
Yeah,
Captain of the ship. Captain of the ship goes down. Most of the other people don't do very well.
Yeah, we're gonna evaluate, see how that defensive line plays for the first couple games without him. You're probably gonna want to drop Denver's defense a little bit lower in the rankings from losing Von Miller. He's a big asset to that team. It's gonna hurt them.
Big news. DeAndre Hopkins signs a 2-year extension worth $54.5 million for the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, he got an extension that he believed that he should have gotten in Houston.
I'm excited.
He was really hoping that they would give it to him, and that kind of what pushed him out to get to Arizona was that they weren't really seeing eye to eye. He deserved to get an extension. He did sign his contract quite early, but the receivers started getting paid, and he was producing more than guys that were getting
Arizona
paid.
Football for once. It's been a while.
It's looking exciting, yes.
So, I don't know.
I wasn't
just brings
excited.
a big little kid smile to my face.
I haven't
DeAndre
been this
Hopkins
excited, since they
hopefully
had.
takes over. Fitzgerald leaves us and becomes that Hall of Famer. You never know. It might be Hopkins slowly behind him 3, 4, 5 years later.
Yeah, definitely haven't been this excited since they had Warner, Fitz, and Bolden on the team,
We also got the Browns that gave Kareem Hunt a 2-year, $13 million extension. So obviously they're enjoying having him in the backfield. Maybe possibly worried about Nick Chubb a little bit.
I wouldn't say worried.
Contract extension talks.
I wouldn't say worried about Nick Chubb. I think that this just shows that they have faith in Hunt and in Chubb, that they can be a duo in the backfield. I honestly don't see them giving up on Chubb in any way just because they have Hunt. Hunt is a total different back than Chubb is, so it works.
Fournette claims he's finally got a quarterback for the first time in his career.
Ouch.
Do you disagree?
Does that hurt, though, for quarterbacks?
I'm sure it
that he
does
has?
hurt a little bit.
I mean, did Blaine, who was it, I was going to say Blaine Gabbert, but Blake Bortles then took him to the AFC Championship, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, he wasn't terrible. Minshew actually played pretty well last year, so I wouldn't say that was bad. He didn't really get a chance. He can't really
compare them to Tom Brady, though.
No, I know that, but oh man, that's kind of messed up. You've only been in the league for 4 years.
Exactly. Let's get into those red zone statistics we want to share with the Easy Bro community. Get you started right on the first week of the football season. We are now, a day away from the Thursday night matchup?
Yeah, man.
I am stoked. Chiefs, Texans to start it off.
It's going to be very exciting. That's going to be a very exciting matchup.
It's always an exciting matchup. Watson and Mahomes going at it, baby.
When we were talking earlier, we thought, what was a good thing that we could talk about on the pod? Something that will help our listeners and help their draft status or just help them in general get a better knowledge of what they have at the running back position, because it's one of the most valuable positions you would say in fantasy.
You see rankings everywhere. You see draft tips everywhere. You see all those things flying around, but you don't see a lot of consistency ratings, which we covered in our episode before.
Episode 4?
Red zone statistics, you don't see a lot put out there, but I think that it matters a lot, and it would surprise you the people that are at the top of the red zone list compared to what you draft people at. And so, for example, Ezekiel Elliott is actually number 1 in red zone rushing statistics.
From inside the 20,
above McCaffrey.
77.6% that whenever Elliott is in the red zone, that he's going to score. He has 11 touchdowns in 59 attempts in the red zone.
I don't
That's
think
incredible.
anyone would expect number 3, right? Todd Gurley?
Ooh, Todd Gurley.
Don't
is
get me wrong,
3.
Todd Gurley's good, but being injured and having the issues he's had over the past couple of years, I didn't expect him to be that high.
Yeah, no, not at all. He had 51 attempts in the red zone, 12 touchdowns. Gurley, if you look at this stat, you're thinking, oh man, I got to steal it with Gurley if I take him, what, 3rd, 4th round he's going?
Yeah. I don't know. I found him more of a bust. Even seeing this, I still wouldn't want to draft him, even if drafts were still going. But
Derrick Henry, 42 attempts, 13 touchdowns. He had a 76.4%
see,
in the red zone.
You skipped someone important that I want to bring up. Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette is actually above Henry, but here's the kicker. He's got 43 attempts, but he only completed 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns.
And all those touchdowns were inside the 5-yard line.
None inside the 10, none inside the 20. He's not. I'm
That
starting to
breakaway
see,
back.
I'm starting to see why people have him so low on the draft boards, and even now, especially
Sharing
being traded to
the
the
load.
Bucks and sharing the load.
Well, signing with them, yeah.
Signing with the Bucks, excuse me. But then we also have Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry right there. I would easily have Derrick Henry and Josh Jacobs above him, knowing that stat.
Yeah.
It's, Cook, McCaffrey, Gurley, Elliott, they've got that touchdown town. But then you've got Aaron Jones down here. He's number 10 on the list. He's got Carson and Joe Mixon right before him.
What I like about Aaron Jones here, he has 14 touchdowns inside the red zone.
He's got that touchdown
8 of them inside the
dependability.
5. 8 of them inside the 5. That means you're getting him 6 touchdowns where he's breaking away for at least 20 yards and scoring. So you don't have to.
Means he's creating plays for himself. He's not just dependent on everyone opening the gap in the hole for him, like kind of like Marlon Mack.
Yeah.
Marlon Mack, I don't, and I'm a Indianapolis Colts fan, but Marlon Mack, 1,000-yard season on 270 carries. I just felt he could have done a lot more with it.
32 carries in the red zone with 7 touchdowns, 3 of them coming inside the 5.
Low percentage,
Yeah.
and most of them were inside the 5, like you say. So
Yeah, he's one of the lowest percentage inside the red zone at
that's why I'm
44.4.
extra excited for Jonathan Taylor. Extra excited. He's explosive. He looks like he's the next top running back. I can't believe people are taking Edwards above him. And then on top of that, he's fallen already to 4th, 5th round now.
Yeah,
So
in some drafts, yeah.
I feel like it's either going to work out or it's not, but I hope it works out because the Colts are all about running. We were number 5 in rush attempts last year.
You have a good offensive line, and that, I think, has shown with the emergence of Mack last year and how, honestly,
Ryan
he
Kelly.
did run. Ryan Kelly ran well. You still had Naheem Hines, who actually ran well, too, last year. I believe he had like 600
Costanzo,
yards.
Just got some Braden Smith.
Yeah, you got some
Great
beasts on
line.
the offensive line.
I honestly, I think I could trust Mack and Taylor both, starting them in fantasy, because I could see both of them producing 1,000-yard seasons together. They're saying he's not a 1A, 1B. This is a 1A, 1A, is how the first week of the season is starting with the Colts and their running backs. So I'll go either way. I think they'll both do well just because of their line and how many attempts and how many rushing attempts the team takes. I think it was 470 rushing attempts as a team last year.
That's incredible.
Yes.
Their offensive line, I think, with another year under their belt, you signed 2 guys last year, right? So this is the second season with all 5 of them together, I believe, or did you sign another lineman in the offseason? I believe this is
the second year they've
with
all
of
been
them together. So it's just going to get better.
Right guard was shored up, I believe, 2 years ago.
If you're a person that, plays fantasy a lot, which listening to the fantasy football podcast, you probably do, then a guy like Ezekiel Elliott, when his offensive line kind of came together and started to grow together, he just became more explosive. He came a lot better, and I only see that.
It's funny you mentioned that name because that's what Jonathan Taylor is being compared to him and Saquon Barkley for his athleticism and explosiveness, but he's also got 225 pounds on him, 5'10", and if you watch him run, he finds the hole. He looks for the hole. He looks for the gap. He's not sitting there waiting for the offensive lineman to do it. He's looking for it before he's even got the ball in his hand. So I feel like he's going to be one of those next-level playmakers.
Another guy, Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, 26 attempts inside the 25 touchdowns. So this guy was breaking them off on people. You got to really be careful if you're playing Lamar Jackson as a defense. He's going to eat a defense up.
He can take you so many different ways. It's an impossible thing to really deal with. You try to block him on the run, then you block him on the for the pass. There's so many aspects to his game, and he's got so many weapons around him with Andrews and Marquise Brown and Mark Ingram and even the rookie Dobbins. Is that his name, Dobbins?
Yes.
So it's something to create. He's got good things around him.
Here's a guy that I didn't expect to be in this. At such a low percentage, at 37.7%, only 26 attempts and 4 touchdowns inside the 20. Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
You know that when you hear that, you're like, oh no, that's not possible. That guy was just doing it all up last year.
He does better in the pass game than he does in the rush game,
and that's where he makes a difference in that.
He gets more touchdowns, I believe, receiving than he does at the goal line. So, but he still produces fantasy numbers. He still produces a top 5, possible top 5 numbers, and if not top 5, easily top 10.
Well, his counterpart, Latavius Murray here, accounted for 2 touchdowns in the red zone. So that kind of just takes touches from Kamara in the red zone. If you're looking for Kamara to be a red zone guy, he's not going to be that guy. But if you want him to be the guy that catches the ball and he's going to get you carries, he's the one that's going to catch it out of the backfield.
And if you're looking for an old school veteran you want to just throw at the end of your bench because you want to look cool, Frank Gore. Frank Gore is one of the best red zone backs there is, and he just seems to – he's got the Benjamin Button disease.
You know, I see Frank Gore.
Instead of getting older, he's somehow he finds a team.
He signed with the Jets,
he's
right?
Gonna retire.
He signed with the Jets, so
and they're praising him.
Honestly, I see Le'Veon Bell running and running.
It says Frank
and running
Gore looks
and running.
like he runs like he's 29 years old.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying you're gonna see Bell running all over the place. Frank Gore's gonna come in and relieve him once in a while. And you know what it's gonna do? It's gonna give him chances to get red zone targets because once Le'Veon Bell runs all the way down the field, someone's gonna have to come in and punch it in.
All right, if I told you a guy had 28 attempts and only 3 touchdowns, who would you think he was?
Miles Sanders.
Saquon Barkley.
Ooh.
Saquon Barkley? But here's my question for you. Do you think it's because he breaks off 40 and 50 and 60-yard plays?
Oh, no doubt. I honestly
and
don't think
those aren't on.
I honestly don't think
these stat rankings.
They're getting in the red zone a lot. I think that's why it's on there, and that could be the same with Alvin Kamara.
You got to take that into account when it comes to
he busts off like 30 to 45. He'll bust off like a 30 to 45 yard run, so that won't be in here. When we're talking about a lot of these top teams, it's good offensive lines, guys that are methodically moving down the field, breaking it off, and then when they're in the 20, they're just opening up lanes for these guys to score.
You might see like a guy like, Alvin Kamara or Saquon Barkley below certain guys on this list like Aaron Jones, Chris Carson, Joe Mixon, but that's simply because those running backs are bruiser backs. They're in there to get yards in the red zone. Kamara and Barkley are out there to make big plays and take it all the way to the touchdown town.
I feel like they have Cohen and Montgomery on here, and they're kind of like the same guy in that aspect. Montgomery, 33 attempts, 6 touchdowns inside the red zone. It's not bad. I can see in a way why people are picking him so high. But like I said, you have Cohen there, and Cohen gets a lot of targets. It makes him lose out.
You got a lot of guys being drafted in the first and early second round that are on this second tier of the red zone would you say leaderboards?
Yeah, yeah.
Kenyon Drake, Jordan Howard, Josh Allen. They're all... Miles Sanders is on this list right here. So these are all guys that are getting drafted pretty high, that people are going into fantasy seasons with high expectations, and they seem to not produce a lot in the red zone. It's not as much as you would expect, especially for a quarterback. But this is the rushing list, so that's pretty good for Josh Allen.
Yeah, I would say for Josh Allen to be on this list with a guy like Lamar Jackson, you're getting a pretty good head nod there.
But then you've got a little further down on the list, you've got Kerryon Johnson, you've got Le'Veon Bell, who that one surprised me a lot. Look at the attempts. He only had 19 red zone attempts last year. 19. That is got to be probably a quarter, if not an eighth, of what he used to get in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he definitely did not have the year last year that he's used
Let's
to
hope
having.
that changes for
Oh,
this year.
I
or
do-
people
I do
are
see
going to
it,
be
yeah.
disappointed again with
Yeah.
him.
Honestly, I see Sam Darnold kind of lowering his... I would lower his expectations.
Yeah.
To me, he's kind of slipping there. He's not the quarterback that they had drafted so high, I don't believe. And I think that Le'Veon Bell being there is kind of going to take him a little pressure off, but it's also going to force them to give the ball to Le'Veon a lot more. Adam Gase likes to run his running backs into the ground, and I don't see it being any different for Le'Veon Bell.
Eckler only had 16 attempts, and he only converted 3
Yeah, a lot of that
rushing
too.
in the red zone.
Like we said,
He's
the
more of a
passing,
pass catcher.
he only
yeah.
had about 500 rushing yards last year. So I can see why he wasn't a red zone target in that aspect of rushing the ball.
A little lower on the list, we've got some more quarterbacks like Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson. A little lower than that, we've got James Conner. James Conner only saw the red zone 13 times, converted 4, 22%. I had James Conner for the last 2 years in fantasy. Awesome the first year. Probably league winner. But last year, a little disappointing. He got banged up. They were just using him and abusing him, and it ended up hurting him in the end. They had no offense. Roethlisberger out, Juju's hurt, Connor's out. They're playing guys you can't even remember their names because they're not even on the team.
Here's a stat that I like that I saw. Deshaun Watson inside the 5-yard line. He's got 6 attempts for 5 touchdowns. So this is a guy
When he's
that
inside the
when
5,
he's in the
just gotta
5,
take it himself.
he's like, hey.
That's the same Josh Allen stat right there.
Yeah.
Josh Allen does the same thing. Inside the 5, he's like, I'll just take him myself.
Yeah, so
I
honestly,
can see better. I
these
got
are-
a better view over here.
when you see a stat like that, that's something that you really want to look for because these guys are going to sneak the ball in. They're going to fake a play, especially if they probably threw the ball down the field. They're probably going to sneak in that run at the end of the drive.
Let's get into some receiving red zone stats. Who are the leaders in receiving for red zone, Eddie?
This is going to shock you. It really, really is. Okay. The
Important-
number 1 guy with 23 targets is Tyler Lockett.
Tyler Lockett, not Michael Thomas. Tyler Lockett. He has 23 targets, 17 receptions, that makes no sense. I'm sorry, 7 touchdowns, 17 targets. I'm like, that's way too many.
Yeah, it says 23
Nope, that's
targets,
7.
17
I don't
receptions,
know where I was seeing the
7
one.
touchdowns.
But of course, then we have Michael Thomas below him. But then another surprise I think people will find, Julian Edelman, number 3. He had 20 targets inside the red zone.
Wow.
4 TDs.
70% catch percentage. 70%. That's awesome. That's a guy that you know that you can depend on when you're throwing the ball in the red zone.
Oh man, there's some big surprises in this. Allen Robinson, 20, 11 receptions, 6 touchdowns.
That doesn't surprise me. I'm very high on Allen Robinson. You
I don't
have
know.
told me that you're not high on him.
I'm kind of regretting not making my cousin give me him in the trade.
You know, here's the thing with Allen Robinson is people are talking about, oh, well, Trubisky's throwing him the ball. He was throwing him the ball last year.
Yeah,
and he put up
threw him the
monster
ball
numbers.
last year. He had he was on our list of target hogs, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
We had a segment. It wasn't called Target Hogs, but he basically was a target hog. That's the only person Trubisky could throw it to. They had nobody. Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen is a red zone beast. He's only converted 4 touchdowns in the red zone out of 19 attempts. 73% catch rate. Not bad. Not bad.
How about right under him? That is something that I didn't expect.
Well, I think that's why people are talking Tyler Higbee up.
Yeah.
He was so under the radar because of all the other things going on. Todd Gurley, Woods, Cooks. Now everybody's out of there. You've got Woods, you've got Cook, and you've got Higbee and Akers. So
Yeah, they have Van Jefferson. I would watch out for him as that third wide receiver spot. But I think that with Cooks gone, it's gonna up Higbee. Last year, he had 19 targets for 14 receptions and 3 touchdowns in the red zone. Travis Kelce, 19 targets, 7 receptions, and 2 touchdowns.
The surprising thing here for me is the 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Man, I really would have thought the leading tight end for the last, 2-3 years?
We have more red zone targets.
Would have more red zone targets. But, sometimes you'll be amazed. That's why we say you got to look at these things. You got to check these things out when you're going into your weeks and you're checking your lineups and you're checking your matchups and trades and waiver wires. Don't forget, go check out the red zone targets. Go check out the consistency ratings. See what's going on. You might even be getting sent trades, or maybe you're trying to throw some trades out there, and these tools might open up a trade you didn't even realize that would benefit you by just looking at 2, 3, 4
stats to help you out.
Yeah.
Just a couple little things to say, hey, my guy is doing this, your guy is doing this. It's worth it.
We've also got Cooper Kupp. Not a surprise in my opinion. That's, Goff's favorite target. Been his favorite target since he came into the league. DK Metcalf.
My surprise with Kupp is that he has 13 receptions and 7 touchdowns.
So he finishes.
Yes.
Austin Hooper. You want a guy that finishes. 18, 6 touchdowns.
That's great. That's great.
It made him the second on the I'd say pecking order on the Falcons. That's why I'm so surprised they let him go. I guess Calvin Ridley was, and I just saw it a different way.
Yeah.
But now the Browns get to benefit. We've also got Zach Ertz, Mike Evans, Julio Jones, George Kittle, Jamison Crowder. All right.
Nice.
That's different.
Julio Jones here, 16 targets for 12
and
receptions and 5 touchdowns.
Let me ask you a question. I made a trade yesterday. Everyone in our league thinks I'm crazy, I guess. But I traded Julio Jones before the season even started, and I didn't want Julio Jones to begin with, so I already knew when I took him that I was taking him for trade chips. And you look at Julio Jones on this list, and you look at everybody above him. You've got Kupp. You've got Cortland Sutton. You've got Allen Robinson, Keenan Allen, Julian Edelman. The guy at the top of the list, Tyler Lockett. You could trade Julio Jones for Tyler Lockett and a whole nother piece to your team. And you have the same receiver, a better receiver, than you did by name. It's just the name. It's the flash of the name. He's very consistent. He's a great receiver.
And passes,
but he's also getting older.
Numbers, yes.
He's also been hurt his whole career and played through it his whole career. So it's bound and determined that eventually he's going to go down. And I don't want to be the guy that owns him when he finally goes down. Because that's what it's come to, is I've never owned Julio Jones. And now I do, and I feel like he was going to go down.
Well, they did draft Ridley to step up into the Julio Jones role whenever Julio Jones was ready.
I traded
to move
Julio
on.
for Terry McLaurin, who had a breakout rookie season last year, and I assume will only do better this year. There's no one else to throw the ball to on the Washington football team.
Yeah.
There's no one. Tell me another. Tell me, please. Tell me their tight end. Tell me their second wide receiver. You can't.
I would like to.
Because we don't even look at that. Because there's no one worth mentioning.
Yeah.
It's going to be the Haskins and McLaurin show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe a little
Sprinkle in some of them
Gibson
running
and
backs.
some McKissick, which, by the way, McKissick is reportedly, as of today, taking the starting position at the running back spot.
He was put number 1 on the depth chart, but that could simply mean, hey, we're going to start him. We're going to let him get the first 4 snaps, and then we're going to bring Gibson in. You know what I mean? Because sometimes they do that. But
anyways, to finish that trade up, too,
Yeah.
McLaren and Jonathan Taylor, because I had to go for the Colt. If it turns out that all that hype is true, I want to be the guy that owns them. So I traded someone in our league, McLaurin. I think I won.
We'll see.
Look at where McLaurin is on this list, sir.
We will see.
That's what the list is for. To make you feel better.
We shall see.
To make you feel better if you think you've done a horrible fantasy trade.
You know what's crazy? You know what's crazy? I seen someone on this list who had the highest percentage, and it kind of blew my mind. It was about 82%, and he wasn't even a wide receiver.
Okay.
Could you guess who it was? Could you guess?
Jack Doyle.
Nope.
Oh, dang it. Emmanuel Sanders.
James White. His catch percentage is 84%. He has 16 receptions in the red zone and 4 touchdowns. I mean, 84% catch rate. Like, that's crazy. That this guy catches the ball more than anybody else inside the red zone. He has the highest catch percentage.
That is kind of crazy. I definitely did not know that.
Right?
I did not know that. I'm walking away.
I was definitely flabbergasted.
I've learned something tonight, and it's always great to do that. You got Kenny Golladay, Larry Fitzgerald, Mark Andrews, Marvin Jones, Christian McCaffrey, and Devontae Parker all falling down here.
Let me see. 6 receptions for 5 touchdowns in the red zone.
Yeah.
Is that a guy you want to target?
Marvin Jones has 8.
That's great.
8 for 14.
My only thing with Marvin Jones
or
is
14 8 for 14. That's a pretty good percentage.
Yeah, my only thing is that I think that he's going to lose targets because of Kenny G just exploding the last 2 seasons.
We've also got Marquise Brown. 12 attempts, 3 conversions. It's pretty decent for a small guy. You got to remember, I think he's 5'9". Don't hold me to that. Maybe 5'11".
5'8", probably.
But so to do that in the red zone, you got a lot of big guys in the red zone. When you're in the red zone and they're all spread out in that area, you gotta fit your body in there and grab that ball. So he knew how to do it, and I assume with him being a rookie last year, it's only going to get better from here. I definitely see him moving up.
Yeah, he could.
Well, let's get into a little bit of over and under. But before we do that, Easy Bros, any of you out there thought of creating your own podcast? We personally use Buzzsprout. They've gotten us on every major podcast platform. The team at Buzzsprout is passionate about seeing you succeed.
Join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout. Follow the link in the show's notes. Let Buzzsprout know we sent you and receive a $20 Amazon gift card to help support the show.
All right, we're going to talk about some over and unders. These are guys that we think are going to either go over their projected fantasy stat line for the season or fall well below that fantasy stat line and sink you into the depths of that, oh man, that fantasy pit.
Just losing. Yeah, just keep an eye out. A lot of guys that we're going to talk about have either very high upside or their upside wasn't high enough.
And we're not going to go too deep into it. We are going to be covering our start, sit, and matchup segment tomorrow. So we're really just going to go through and let you know who we think is worth it based on who's going up and who's going down after week 1. So first off, I want to start off by talking an Arizona Cardinal. Kyler Murray. He's projected to get 299 total fantasy points. Last year, he got 285. So you say, okay, well, 299, that's probably a good projection, right? Well, last year, he had Larry Fitzgerald, 37 years old, 38, I believe.
Around there, give or take.
Christian Kirk hurt most of the season. And even when he was in, after the injury, he was maybe 70%. You had also Kenyon Drake didn't come in till I'd say what?
Week 7 or 8.
Yeah, 7
right
or
before
8.
the trade deadline, yeah.
And so for the first part of the season, Kyler Murray didn't really have much, did he?
Not of an offense, no.
But yet he still put up those numbers, didn't he?
Yeah.
And so this year he's got Drake. He's got a healthy who's the backup running back again? I always forget his name. Chase Edmonds. He's got Fitzgerald. He's the third wide receiver listed this year. Christian Kirk fully healthy and looking athletic as he was when he started last season. And then you have the guy we traded for, DeAndre Hopkins. So you're telling me that you get all those extra pieces, you get all of them for an entire season, and Kyler Murray isn't going to put up 25 more fantasy points?
Yeah, that sounds crazy to me.
He's going over. There's no way he goes under.
Yeah.
He gets a better offense and he goes under. I own him in the fantasy league. If by week 8 he's under his projected stat line, I'll trade him to the worst team in the league.
I'll hold you to that.
You can hold that. Do it. Just do it, man. Who you got?
A guy I got for quarterback over is Dak Prescott. Last year he had 357 fantasy points. This year they're only projecting him to have 301. I don't know how that is.
I know.
It's a little crazy to me.
He got more weapons. But he's going to get worse.
He has it's a contract year.
I don't know how they come up with these
This
things.
guy is going to show that he is worth the money that he's asking for.
Yeah, and then on top of that, he's playing for money.
Yeah.
He wants to for the last 2 years, he's been trying to get an extension. And basically they're saying, prove it to me. Prove it to me.
Yes.
And he's proven it. Every year he's getting better and better and better. And if he gets better this year, I don't think they're going to be able to afford him.
No, money is motivation. And he is going to be motivated to ball out this year. He got CeeDee Lamb just to add to Gallup and the already Amari Cooper that he had. He still has Ezekiel Elliott, one of the best running backs in the league. Jarwin has kind of stepped into his own. There's targets there. He's going to definitely have way more than 301 points. I'm going to say about maybe 350 to 375 in that range.
I got a under for you, Mahomes. I'm not high on Mahomes this year, and it's probably because last year he finished 6th overall, and that's not bad. 6th overall is not bad. You can win a championship with the 6th overall quarterback on your team, but it's Patrick Mahomes. Last year you were spending a first, second round pick in most leagues. This year, first or second round pick, yet he's putting up the numbers of. Oh wait, Josh Allen's ahead of him from last year's stats with less weapons, also, and now Josh Allen has more weapons. Murray was behind Mahomes, one spot. It goes Josh Allen at 5, Mahomes at 6, Murray at 7. Last year's finish. So you don't think that taking one of those guys in the 5th, 6th, 7th and riding them out for the season, and then picking up a halfback or a running back? Wide receiver, wouldn't be more presentable to you. But anyways, they've got him projected at 340 points this year. 340 points. 2019, he put up 287. He threw for 4,100 yards. He doesn't run the ball. Even when he does, don't get me wrong, he does if he has to. But he's not a guy who thinks run first. This is a guy who thinks, I want to throw deep first.
Yeah, or find just that guy that's open. Yes.
So, no matter as great as he is, if he's not putting up 5,000 yards, 5,500 yards, he's not going to keep up with Jackson. He's not going to keep up with Kyler Murray. He's not going to keep up with the guys that use their legs. Josh Allen uses his legs. He gets touchdowns with his legs and his arms. Mahomes doesn't do that. So why waste it? So he's going under for me. I'm thinking if he got 287 last year and they had a phenomenal season, they won the Super Bowl, I'm thinking 300 is his top.
Yeah, that sounds, yeah.
So he's falling under for me.
He's already starting off the season. I think Watkins is kind of banged up already, right?
Yeah.
Miko Hardman is a little banged up, right?
No, he's healthy.
No,
Tyreek Hill had the little hamstring.
That's what it was.
Yeah, tweaked his hamstring a week or two ago.
But there you go. You're entering the season, and you don't even know if you're a full board with wide receivers. So that, to me, is going to put him a little bit lower in projected stats as well.
Throw a guy at us.
My next guy is Matt Ryan. And not because I don't think that he can do what he did last year. Last year he had 267 fantasy points. They're projecting him to go 282. Honestly, don't see that offense being any better than it was last year unless Gurley comes to form. If Gurley becomes the old Gurley...
But even then, if Gurley comes to form, then what you just saw in the red zone statistics, Gurley at number 3 tells you that he runs the ball. So that doesn't help Matt Ryan because Matt Ryan's used to throwing the ball. That's what keeps him fantasy relevant in the top 10 quarterback conversation. It's not it's not anything else. Gurley's gonna...
No, I just think that Gurley's gonna free up the defense. They're not gonna stack the box. They're not gonna rush him.
Of course. It's gonna make it easier for him when he does throw. But I think you're gonna see less attempts this year than you did last year.
Well, when you got a guy like Gurley,
he had banged up running backs all year last year, and that's why he put up so many points.
Well, if Gurley is fully healthy, you're gonna have him in.
That was another factor in my Julio Jones trade. Is they put up as many points as they could last year. They were throwing the ball nonstop.
Yeah, I still think that
Jones
Gurley will get throws.
Finish number 1. He didn't. He only finished number 3.
Gurley's red zone targets, 3 of his touchdowns were from receiving, so I really think that he can still get the ball and catching and still have Matt Ryan. But I don't see Matt Ryan going 282 fantasy points this season. So it's definitely probably about 240, maybe 250.
Cam Newton's going with a projection of 258 fantasy points. So I want to throw a couple people out there, though. You've got Jackson, you've got Prescott, you've got Wilson, you've got Watson, you've got Mahomes, you've got Murray. All these guys are in the 300-point range, correct?
Yes.
What does Cam not have that they have?
Receiver.
He does.
Well, he does now.
He's got Edelman.
Now he does.
He's got N'Keal Harry.
Yeah.
I think he's got just as good of a receivers as he had with the Panthers, correct?
Yeah.
Maybe better?
Yeah, Edelman is probably arguably better than any receiver he had in Carolina.
Okay, so you might not have McCaffrey, but you got James White, who you were just saying is a red zone killer.
82% catch in the red zone, yeah.
So why can't Cam Newton get 300 points?
Oh, easily.
He's definitely an over for me.
If he's healthy and comes back to Cam.
If he's healthy and he comes back, the Cam he was
Superman
from the Super Bowl, you're getting 300 to 325.
Yeah, easily. I like that pick. Another guy for me that I'm thinking could be a lot higher than what he is projected is Aaron Rodgers. Last year, 278 fantasy points, and I feel like that was a down year for Rodgers. When you look at his past, he's going about 300 fantasy points to 310 fantasy points in past years. So for him to have 278, they projected him at 264. I don't see it. I don't see how Aaron Rodgers is going to throw less.
I don't see how Cam Newton's going to get less than Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. So, like, both of these guys are definitely an over.
So you think Cam Newton's getting 258? You better have Aaron Rodgers down there at around 240, 235, something, because Cam Newton is going to run. And right there boosts him above any quarterback that does not run.
Yeah.
So Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, those guys don't run. And even if they do, they're getting 2, 3, 4, 5 yards tops. They're not getting 15. They're not getting 25. Cam Newton can do that. Cam Newton can take it all the way. So my next one, Garoppolo. Garoppolo is projected to get 233 fantasy points this season. 2019, he got 247. So he's actually projected to have a little bit less than what he got last year. I think he's going to get a little bit less than that. Just a little bit.
I think
last year he had, okay, hold on for a second. Let me throw this at you. Last year, okay, he had Kittle. He had Mostert. He had Coleman. He had Emmanuel Sanders after they traded for him. He had Breida. He had
Kendrick Bourne.
Deebo Samuel.
Right? Is that his name?
Deebo Samuel.
Oh, Deebo Samuel, yes.
He had playmakers. He had people around him. He put up 247 points. Well, now he's got nothing but a banged-up receiver core.
Yes.
That was not upgraded with anybody. He actually lost Emmanuel Sanders. You gain Jordan Reed
They
as your
did draft.
backup tight
They
end.
did draft Brandon Ayuk.
Ayuk, yes, Arizona, got him. Anyways, I just don't believe he can do better than that. I don't think Garoppolo is a Super Bowl quarterback. He's not ever going to go to a Super Bowl. I will say that to you, and I believe it. Garoppolo, well, okay, don't get me wrong.
Like, wait,
He's
didn't
been
he
to
go
a
to
Super
Super
Bowl.
Bowl?
Okay, I'm sorry.
You don't think he's gonna win one?
Let me correct myself. I meant win a Super Bowl. Any team can make it to the Super Bowl. Any quarterback can make it to the Super Bowl. We've seen this. Nick Foles? Okay.
So
We've seen this. What I was getting to. Just, got to say it correctly, I guess.
Yeah,
I'm going to get crucified for that one.
Hey, I'm just saying.
But anyways, short and sweet. Garoppolo, I feel, is going to go just a little under the 233, around 225. So it's not like I'm knocking him down, 50 points. I'm just saying I don't think he's getting 233.
It's a running team. I think last year
They
ran
run.
54% of plays.
Well, and they've got all these running backs that they have traded for, signed. All of them are finally healthy at the same time. You've got got who was who was the third string that was hurt for almost 2 years straight that they signed? McKinnon. McKinnon's back healthy.
Yeah.
You've got Tevin Coleman who came back healthy last
If
year.
you remember correctly, before McKinnon went out, he was doing great.
Yeah. You're doing amazing.
Yes.
I had him in my league 3 years ago.
Yeah.
When he was a bench player, and I threw him in as a flex every once in a while because he was getting 12, 15.
He reminds me of a Murray, a Latavius Murray. You can put him behind your starter, but he's gonna get you points.
Minshew is one of my overs. He's only projected to get 227 points this season, and I think with DJ Chark, possibility of Westbrook, I know he's injured at the moment, might not play week 1. They still have Conley. They have that consistency there. Tyler Eifert, added him in the offseason. They've got Chris Thompson, pass catching specialist. They have the weapons for Minshew to throw the ball. They're not going to run the ball. They're not going to win. But guess what? When you're losing, you're throwing the ball a lot. Minshew's going to throw the ball a lot. And whether he gets, we've seen it with Winston. Winston got how many interceptions would Winston get? 5 interceptions. He still scored 35 fantasy points because he's throwing for 400 yards in a game and also getting 5 touchdowns to go with those 5 interceptions.
The Jaguars look like they're taking the Dolphins route this year. So
Chark was an under-the-radar wide receiver last year, and he blew up. Great finish for the year, and I think him and Minshew have that little that chemistry going on, and I think it's only going to improve this season.
I think the underrated player in this whole thing is going to be Tyler Eifert.
Yeah.
Tyler Eifert can catch if he's coming back healthy. He's going to have options.
He says he feels healthier than he has in years since all the injuries began. So.
I have high hopes for.
And maybe that's why he left the
fantasy
Bengals, because the Bengals don't believe it and they're scared to push him because of especially after that last scary leg injury that they thought he might not even come back from. It was almost, I wouldn't say as bad as Alex Smith's, but it looked like it on tape. So I've got also Darnold. Darnold is in my unders. Darnold is projected to get 222. I think he will be lucky to break 200. He got 189 last year, and they've upgraded in nothing. They signed Perriman.
Oh man,
Herndon is
banged up,
healthy now, so maybe that makes a difference.
No. I mean, it makes a difference for fantasy if you want to take Herndon as your tight end because it's probably the only guy who can hit the ball. He's going to be the only healthy guy on the field from what it sounds like.
So I don't trust that. Darnold's fallen for me. He's probably the worst quarterback in my rankings.
Plus, to be honest, he has to face some pretty hefty defenses.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
My last under guy, I'm going to stick with New York, but I'm going to go way of Giants, and it's Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones last year had 214 fantasy points. They're projecting him 248. I don't see it. I see him about probably the same, 214. He's another team there, a lot of banged-up receivers. You don't really know who's going to be on the field.
He didn't start every game, bro.
I do get that. Would he only played? I think he came in after like week 4, though. So
Yeah, but even then, add 4 more games to his fantasy statistics, and he's probably in the 240, 260 range.
He had 2 games where he only
quarterback
threw 70
average is about
yards.
20 to 30 games.
Yeah, I still think
30
Saquon's going to get
30 points per game.
I think Saquon's going to get a lot of the load, to be honest. And I just don't
I
see Daniel Jones
I see the same
scoring
thing there,
as much
but I don't.
as they're saying that he's going to. I just don't see it.
All right, that's your take. I'm not going to argue you. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't.
You, at the end of the season, when you see that I'm right, we'll go back to the tape.
All right, let's get to some running backs. I've got Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell, oh man, kind of a disappointment last year, but he's projected to go 206 fantasy points this year. Last year, he only somehow managed 142. Am I reading that wrong?
Oh, fantasy points last year?
Yeah.
No, last year he had 215 fantasy points.
Okay. I must have wrote
They're
that one
projecting him
down
at
wrong.
206 this year.
I thought it was wrong, too.
They're projecting him at 206. I don't understand how they're going
Okay.
to project him at 206 when he had 215.
I think he could get to the 225 area. I think he could get it to the 240 area. It all depends on how often they let him run the ball. So he's definitely an over for me. They've got him so low that it's hard not to see him as an over. And if he does manage the under, that's scary for his next year fantasy
Like
value.
how you had mentioned earlier with the hurt receivers there, I don't see them throwing the ball as much. I see him running. One of my guys for under is going to be Mark Ingram. Not because I don't think Mark Ingram can do it, but I just think that they're going to give a lot of the carries to Dobbins, and I think he's going to be a big part of the offense. Last year, Ingram had 242 fantasy points. I just don't see it this year. I see maybe 200, not 242. It's way too much, and they're going to share the ball a lot more this year than they did last year.
I got David Montgomery going under. He was projected for 170, but last year he got 140. I don't see how someone going into the season already injured and going to be out multiple weeks is going to come in with no passing work, with Tariq Cohen stealing the passing work,
Yes.
and with the Bears' offense coming up to be fantasy relevant.
Trubisky is still hit or miss. You don't know what you're going to
I
get
see
every
them
game.
having to throw the ball to keep up.
Yeah.
So how
yeah.
does a guy that only makes his fantasy living off the ground, how does he contribute to a fantasy team?
Yeah, it sounds like he's going to be there blocking.
Also, I have Clyde Edwards-Helaire on my under.
Okay,
Another guy
okay.
I think people are surprised. 252 projected points. We've got nothing to go off of last year. He's a rookie, but I just feel like they've already announced Williams is going to have a part in the backfield, whether it's 40, 60, 35, 65. I think with a rookie coming in and with an offense that has so many great weapons, Hill, Hardman, Watkins, Kelsey, they throw the ball. Mahomes throws the ball a lot, and I see it impossible to create the value that of the first round halfback.
Do you feel like his stock
you
is so
picked.
high?
Yes,
Because of the fact that they won the Super Bowl, that's why his stock is so high?
That's what's straining him completely. Because let's put this for instance, if Williams hadn't have backed out of his contract due to COVID, and Helaire is starting now.
Oh, Damian Williams would have been the starter.
Williams, yes,
He would have been the starter.
I
Yeah.
forgot there's two Williams. You gotta be specific.
Darrell and Damian. But yeah, if Damian Williams
He'd be the
came
starter
back,
right
he'd
now,
be the
right?
starter. Yeah, it would be no question.
Okay, so then would you have taken Helaire in the first round at the 7th, 8th, 9th pick? No, you probably would have taken him in the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th round.
Yeah.
You know,
easily.
He would have been behind Jonathan Taylor. That's
And
for dang sure.
I don't feel that Damian Williams, and I'm a huge Damian Williams fan, I don't feel that he's a guy that they would have projected at 23 points. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
How about a guy that I'm over on? Kenyon Drake. He's got a full he's going to get a full season there in Arizona this year. Last year, 214 fantasy points. I would say that it's going to be a lot more this year. Last year, half the season playing with the Dolphins, they kind of shut him down. I think that he didn't play in about 3-4 games. So I think that this year he can average about 270. They're saying he can get 245. I see him with the receiving and the catching, that he's definitely going to be up there.
Let's throw some receivers out there. I got Kenny Galladay as my over. He got 248 fantasy points last year. This year, he's projected at 224, I believe, because Tyrod Taylor took over at quarterback. Phillip Rivers is out of there, so people are thinking Allen is going to finish a little less. But the way I look at it is Tyrod Taylor has played football. He has started for teams. He knows how to throw the football. And on top of that, you've got your number 2 receiver, Mike Williams, who's out already. So you have Hunter Henry, Eckler, and oh my gosh, I'm talking complete wrong here. I'm over here thinking I'm talking about Keenan Allen, and I'm over. Excuse me, Easy Bros. We have technical difficulties. Zach has made a boo-boo. All right, Kenny Galladay. What I was getting to and what I was thinking of is Marvin Jones being there.
Yes.
Also, having Johnson and Hawkinson. I think Hawkinson's going to have a great year this year. I think he's going to take that step up. We talked about him in our stepping up segment. So I think Kenny Galladay has with a healthy Matthew Stafford, no broken back, plays a full season, and Kenny Galladay also stays healthy. There's no reason he couldn't have 275 fantasy points.
Oh yeah, I agree.
He's got the size of Devontae Adams. He's got the hands. They just haven't had a full season together.
Yeah, I believe that with the season under his belt that he's going to get a lot better.
Man, it's like I almost wanted to talk about Keenan Allen. Do you have him on your list?
I don't. Oh, wait, I do have him.
Oh, see?
I do have him.
It's
Keenan
okay,
Allen
guys.
is on
I
my
didn't mess
list
up.
as an over. Keenan Allen last year had 261 fantasy
and
points.
I had him on my over, too.
Hey, listen. You know what I do not understand is that they're projecting him to go 213. How? They had a receiver get hurt, so he's basically pro bono number 1 and number 2. So he's gonna get his receptions, and not only that is that the man got his extension. He got his contract.
I think
he's gonna show
Odell
that he deserved
Beckham's
it.
kind of in the same boat as those two, right? Odell Beckham, you know his potential. You know what he's done in the past with the Giants. He's yet to be himself with the Browns, but yet if Baker Mayfield and all of them and the Browns and co can get together and get on the same page, Austin Hooper, Jarvis Landry, Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, there's no reason these guys should not be open. There's no reason Odell Beckham should be double teamed. There's no reason he shouldn't be able to be breaking off these crazy plays he used to get for the Giants. There's no reason at all for it.
Yeah, especially since he's not getting double teamed like he was in New York. You know what I mean? There's so many options there in Cleveland that he can free up.
He's projected at 216, and you already know that his actual that ceiling above him, it's pretty high. To the point where he used to be up there with Julio Jones. He used to be up there with the Devontae Adams and those guys. I think you could easily throw Beckham in there with them on the overs.
A guy that I would say Beckham is way better than, in my heart, and I believe that, is Robert Woods. Robert Woods is projected to go 222 fantasy points. That is way above Odell. I don't see Robert Woods being better than Odell. I think that Robert Woods is going to be under. He had last year 232. I don't see him doing that again. I really think that he's probably going to go about 190. So Robert Woods, right there with Odell. Odell should be higher.
I've only got one under wide receiver for you, and it happens to be who we spoke about a little bit earlier, Allen Robinson. He is projected to get 223 points last year, being the only target in Trubisky's eyes, with nothing else around him and nobody else to throw the ball. Run game that didn't work out the way they thought it was going to work out with Montgomery and Cohen till about the end of the season, and he still only managed 254 fantasy points.
Only.
I'm just saying, if it's Tyreek Hill in that situation and he's getting the ball, how many times? There were multiple games where Allen Robinson had 11, 12, 13, 14 targets.
Yeah.
What is another receiver, Julio Jones? What's he doing with that? I think he can do 200 and something yards. So when you think of that in fantasy point terms, yes, he could have done better. I don't think he's going to do better this year. I think the only way he's got to go is down.
His targets were high, but the ball wasn't close to him when he was trying to catch it. So you got to get the ball to your receiver. There's a big difference when Matt Ryan is throwing you the ball than Mitchell Trubisky throwing you the ball.
Let's get into some tight ends. What do you got for your tight ends? Got any over or unders you want to share?
I got an over for you here.
All right.
Tyler Higbee.
Oh, did you throw him on the list because you were seeing his?
No. I was just looking at it, and I'm kind of high on the Rams offense. I think that Higbee stepped into his own. I think that Woods and Kupp are gonna do very, very well this year. Goff seems to me like every year he's just kind of stepping it up. We're gonna see what happens with the running back situation, but I really think that Higbee, having 160 fantasy points last year, and they're projecting him at 162, I think he can push at least 180, 190.
I've got one I want to talk about, and his name is Austin Hooper. So it's kind of funny because I got Beckham and Hooper. But Hooper is projected to get 129 points.
High hopes on this Cleveland Browns offense, huh?
Well, someone's got to score points, right? You look at the Jags, someone's scoring points there, right?
Yeah.
Chark, you're going to use him.
Yeah.
Minshew will be a streamer eventually. And I mean that when bye weeks come.
Yeah.
Chris Thompson?
Possibly.
Tyler Eifert?
Possibly. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so why wouldn't you use the number 6 tight end in fantasy football last year, even while sitting out 4 games for injury? 3 games. 3 or 4. One of those.
Those other guys don't have backups competing for their spot.
That's Austin Hooper. He doesn't have a backup competing for his spot. They're trying to trade Njoku
We'll
right
see
now.
what happens.
Anyways, 129 points is what they are predicting for him this year. He had 191 points last season.
Yeah.
So it's very easy for me to say he's going to go over that. It's just going to happen. So we've also got Hayden Hurst. I've got him on my unders. He's projected at 142. 2019, he finished with 76. And I honestly think that with the Falcons picking up Todd Gurley, they picked up Hurst more for blocking purposes than anything else to load load up the run. That way, when they do run, because Julio Jones is actually a very good wide receiving run blocker.
Yes.
So you've got a tight end that can run block. You've got a wide receiver that can run block.
Calvin Ridley's pretty underrated too. In college, he was a very good run blocker.
So what is it? It just tells me I don't think he's going to have the same role as Hooper did, and I just don't think at his level.
I got an under for you, and it might shock you a little bit, but it's Evan Ingram. He was last year 109 fantasy points. This year he's projected to be 166. He could get 166. I'm just not sold on Daniel Jones as the quarterback. That is my only issue. Seeing him last year, I just don't feel that he's a top quality quarterback. I don't. And we'll see what happens with him this year, but I just don't see that Ingram is going to top or do any better than he did last year.
I've also got Doyle. Doyle is projected to get 120 points. Last season finished with 111 and now has Phillip Rivers, one of the quarterbacks that is best known for throwing to the tight end in his entire career. And Doyle also just lost his tight end mate.
Yeah, he's alone now. So
Burton is out for the season.
Ebron's gone. Burton is out for the season.
So, and we've only got Hilton. We've got Michael Pittman Jr. and Paris Campbell and Jack Doyle. And then Jonathan Taylor and Mack.
And they shown last year that they're going to throw the ball to Doyle. So I don't see why his fantasy points are so low.
I could see him doing 150, 175.
Easily 150, 175 on depending on the teams that they play. Because he can have those big games.
Definitely more than 120.
Yes.
He's a starting tight end. There's some backup tight ends. I think Goddard from the Philadelphia Eagles is projected to get more than Doyle this season.
Yeah.
Well, Easy Bros, that's going to do it for us today. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Eddie, I'm sure hopes you enjoy the episode too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
We like
Make
to tell you guys to check us out on our Facebook page at Easy Bros on Facebook. Also check us out on our Twitter at Easy Bros FF Pod. Check us out on our website at easybrosfantasyfootball.com.
And also, if you want to become a member of the Easy Bros Patreon, check us out at www.patreon.com/easybros.
Click and subscribe.
Check us out tomorrow for our next episode where we go over our start sit for the AFC division and our weekly matchups.
And the Thursday night review.
Thursday night review.
football. Football, people.
Football, baby. Football.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for joining the Easy Bros of the Easy Bros Fantasy Football Podcast. Don't forget to join us for our next episode. Like, subscribe, and check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and also our website, EasyPod Bros at EasyBrosFantasyFootball.com.